What is going on, y'all? Future Soul here to really quickly give you guys a couple of warnings. First off, very obvious spoiler warning. I am basically talking about the end of Pokemon Journeys and all of my knowledge on it up to this point, which is basically whatever I've seen so far on the internet and whatever I have watched myself. So, you know, if you don't want to be spoiled on anything too crazy, if you're watching the anime and you're anticipating the end, I would not recommend watching this all the way through unless you're caught up or anything like that. And also, I want to apologize for a couple of things, namely that instead of talking about a trailer that came out, I'm talking about the anime. The primary reason that I'm doing that is because the anime is about to end in a couple of weeks, and I also didn't realize that this upcoming week would be when the final battle would actually come to a conclusion, and I wanted to get this video out before the end of that battle, because that's when this would be, you know, where it mattered essentially. So anyhow, long story short, hence why this is coming out at a very weird time, a day before the final episode releases, or I'm sorry, not the final episode, but the episode where the final battle takes place, I'm hearing. So just a heads up on why that is. And this also came out super late because I've been distracted with Sonic Forces. So what can you do? So anyway, and then my final apology is that this is a crazy low effort video. It's just a lot of pictures, but the primary takeaway here is what I have to say, not exactly the pictures themselves. So, yeah, that's about it. Thank you. Go ahead and enjoy. Take it away past me. Hey yo, what's good though? Soul here and welcome back to the story mode. At this point in time, we are receiving a lot of different Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailers. However, a lot of these trailers are just kind of reiterating stuff that we've already known about, so I don't really see a point in making too many videos on that. If I find something new and crucial that I can talk about in depth, then cool, but as of right now, I'm not seeing that. I do think that there is something crucial that we should talk about outside of the game though. As the title suggests, the anime is most definitely coming to a close, or at the very least, the saga for Pokemon Journeys is coming to a close soon. Now obviously this comes as a shock to nobody. Every single time that we start getting closer to a newer generation, the anime starts to end around a similar time frame. At this point in time, we've been on Generation 8 for almost 4 years now, and Generation 9 is literally right around the corner, 2 weeks away. So obviously with the anime coming to a close and, you know, us about to get really busy with Scarlet and Violet about 2 weeks from now, I'd like to reflect a little bit on my thoughts regarding this anime. Now, I did want to reflect on the anime in a more balanced manner because if a couple of you remember a little while back, about 2 months ago, I made a video titled My Beef with the Pokemon Anime. In that video in particular, I did a lot of complaining. Pretty much all that video was complaining about what the anime was and why I wasn't really satisfied with it and why I fell off as hard as I did. 2 months later, really sitting on that, I don't think that was a very fair video to make. You guys know me, I usually like to talk about my likes and my gripes, and in that video it was completely gripes, which may have led a lot of you to believe that I absolutely hate the anime, which is not really the case. The anime is not completely bad, that's not what I wanted to get across. There are some qualities from that anime that actually surpass previous seasons of the Pokemon anime. However though, I will be honest, while I don't hate the anime, I have grown a couple, let's call them resentments toward it. There was a lot of decisions that were made for this anime that continued right up to the very end, and personally, I just wasn't very fond of those ideas. Hold on, let me back it up a little bit. I've already talked a lot about some of my frustrations with the anime, but I didn't talk about what I appreciated regarding the anime, so why don't we go ahead and start with that first. One of my biggest appreciations for this anime is the fact that it gave the series a lot more freedom than it's ever had. It didn't feel like the typical generational anime, which is why when Pokemon Journeys came out, a lot of us thought that this one was going to last a lot longer than Generation 8. This anime allowed the freedom of Ash and Co to be able to go to places and do things that we didn't think were even possible to do before. Instead of going around collecting gym badges and exploring the brand new region like we're typically used to, instead he worked under a professor that allowed for him to understand the Pokédex even more so than before, and the best way to do that was by taking on tasks for him so that he could travel around the entirety of the world, as opposed to the usual one region a season. And because of this, it's allowed for Ash and Co to get into a lot of different situations that would be very unique to only the anime as opposed to the games. One of the biggest examples of that is Ash alone. He now carries the power of Z moves, Mega Evolution, as well as Gigantamaxing because he's been to every single region once again on his journey that allowed him access to these powers. That's an awesome thing. One of the first things that I personally thought of when I actually got my hands on Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing was, I wonder how well this would hold up against Mega Evolution. And this anime is possibly the only canon time that we're actually able to see that in action. And speaking of utilizing abilities, the battling is definitely the best it's ever been. I can't even fight on that. Instead of the long dragged out mission of collecting all 8 gym badges and just challenging the league and most likely losing, we now have on our hands a global tournament, a worldwide participatory game in which everybody can participate. It doesn't matter where you are. A situation in which you truly do have the opportunity to become the best. This is most definitely, by far, my favorite interpretation of the gym challenge, and I really do wish that we did have a Pokemon game that did it just like this. Those couple of reasons right there alone are why I really do feel like this series has lived up to its name, Pokemon Journeys. Another thing that I actually really do appreciate about this series is the fact that it gave us completely original characters. Now don't get me wrong, I would have absolutely loved a series in which Hau and Marnie were the other primary characters within the series. However though, I enjoy the presence of Go and Chloe because they are the ones that really help differentiate the games from the anime. Ash being alongside these two as opposed to some random picks from the games really helps solidify the fact that Ash is in fact his own character and not just some stand-in anymore like the previous seasons made him out to be. Now this is not me saying that these two characters are only sitting here solidifying Ash as his own character. That's not what's happening here. As a matter of fact, I'm almost compelled to say that I appreciate these characters a lot more than a lot of the other partner characters from the previous seasons of the anime. And I only say that solely because, more than ever, these two actually feel like they have their own goals. Now again, let's not get it twisted. For example, I absolutely love Brock. I've always thought he was hilarious, he's super relatable, and he was just the caretaker of Ash & Co. He was very important. However though, after a while, his presence simply felt unnecessary. Like, yeah, he was kind of like the caretaker and everything like that, but that's it. That's kind of what his character ended up being boiled down to, the caretaker of Ash and whoever else he happened to be traveling with. At the very least, it really did feel like Go and Chloe had more than that going on for themselves. Usually Ash would be the one tasked with really filling out the Pokédex and things like that, but instead, he was allowed to focus on his own goal of becoming champion. This is literally all thanks to Go, who is a character who has his own set of goals. He met Mew, he really wants to meet Mew again, and in turn, he wanted to learn more about Pokemon, which gives him a lot of incentive to go out and finish the Pokédex on his own. This is absolutely phenomenal. He is a character who is doing his own thing. However, his and Ash's interests kind of align, so they journey together. Perfect! Awesome! This makes the setup for their partnership work wonderfully. Love it. And then there's Chloe, who actually has more of a personal life than both of those two combined. She is literally the daughter of the professor, she's doing her own thing, she's going to school, and she's working towards something. And honestly, besides Dawn, that's more than I can say than most of the other secondary protagonists when it comes to the anime. She definitely keeps more to herself though, and she's not a big fan of the antics that Ash and Go usually get themselves into, which, okay, I get that, fair enough. But you see what I'm saying here? These characters really feel like they're their own thing and not just constantly getting dragged around into absolute nonsense just for the sake of it. These two were definitely welcome additions, and I would love to see them in future renditions of the games, the anime, whatever. And finally, speaking of characters, one of the last couple of things that I appreciate is the fact that we were able to see a lot of other characters from the past of Pokemon. Upon visiting other regions, we were actually really able to see what a lot of these other characters were up to. Now I say this, but in reality, I'm mostly referring to the fact that a lot of these older characters are participating in the gym challenge. Seeing characters like Cynthia and Steven return for the anime, especially in this format, is so awesome. It's just so funny to me because a lot of the time when me and my friends were younger, we would always constantly talk about how Cynthia would absolutely beat our asses in the games, whether it be the final battle in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, or the rebattle with her in Pokemon Black and White at the Villa. And then there's obviously the fact that at the end of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, they made her an absolute threat for no reason, and that's amazing. So to see her again in the anime canonized as one of the strongest trainers in the entire world is so fitting, and I love that she gave everybody a challenge during that final tournament. That's how it should be. Cynthia has always been a phenomenal trainer, and this right here proves it. A little hilarious that we didn't really hear anything about the 5th, 6th, and 7th gen champions at all during this tournament, but I mean, whatever. I ain't saying nothing. But anyway, long story short, it really does go to show that they do pay attention to the world of Pokemon, and even when they do say that the anime canon and the video game canon is a little different, which is fine in some cases, but for the most part, they're so similar, why even try to differentiate it, you know? Especially when stuff like this is very accurate and present to the games. I don't know, I really enjoy that aspect of it. I really do. So anyhow, there goes all of my proof right there that I do have appreciation for this anime and that I do not hate it entirely. However, my frustrations do unfortunately greatly outweigh the positives. I hate to put it that way, I truly do, but unfortunately, there are a lot more things that I don't like about the anime that I do enjoy about the anime. As a matter of fact, my first problem and biggest frustration with the anime should set everything straight right now. My biggest, most absolute frustration with the anime is the fact that none of the positives that I've mentioned were utilized as an advantage to make a stronger story. Like, for example, instead of utilizing the possibility that they had with traveling to other regions, they just used those other regions to create these nonsensical one-off stories 90% of the time. If there was any development to the story at all, it was only the fact that Ash would probably get access to a new Pokemon and that Go would learn about maybe 1 or 2 different Pokemon or something. Otherwise, any and all development to characters or situations all went to stuff that never mattered in the first place. Just a bunch of overall situations that brought absolutely nothing to the story whatsoever. In all honesty, really looking back at it, I could probably have watched only the episodes where Ash battled somebody and won, and I would be totally fine and completely caught up to where we are now. I'm totally fine with the occasional filler episode, especially if it's funny or very interesting, but 90% of the series should not feel like filler. Stuff happened, and that's fun and fine for the everyday Saturday morning cartoon, not for an anime. That's just my take on it, though. I think that mostly just frustrates me, though, because there was potential for a story. There were even certain segments where there were kind of some story, but they fell off so fast that it was extremely upsetting. I did mention in my prior video on this topic that one of the most interesting segments to me within this entire anime was actually when they incorporated the end of Sword and Shield's plot. They almost started to do a little bit more when it came to leading into the whole situation, and that's where I got really interested. I was like, oh, they actually have Ash handling some of these Gigantamaxed Pokemon. That's what I kind of wanted to do myself when I was present myself in the game. The battle with Rose was actually handled much differently than it was in the game, and I was like, oh, okay, they're kind of having their own little spin on it too. This is actually kind of entertaining. And then it ended the exact same way the game did. Ash and Go got their hands on those artifacts, they summoned the legendaries, they battled Eternatus, and they called it a day. And then, for a year after that, it was just tomfoolery, with a couple of special arcs here and there, but other than that, nothing that pertained to the actual story, which was Ash working to become champion. So, whatever. And that kind of leads me into my next thing. Now, I've briefly have talked about a subject very similar to this before, but the fact that we're near the end of the series now, and I worry for anybody that isn't Ash. Specifically in this scenario, Go and Chloe, who I mentioned earlier in my positives, were some of the first few characters in the series that felt like they actually had goals. Now again, keep in mind this is a very special case. However, I do take into account that one of the only characters that survived multi-generational series and things like that was Brock. And while in technicality we have pretty much seen every character from the series up to this point in Journeys, that is strictly because they showed up as cameos. Now here's the thing, we don't know how the story is going to continue from this point because we don't know what's gonna happen with Ash past this point. But just disregarding Ash for a quick second, I don't think that Go or Chloe are anywhere near completing their goals. To my understanding, at the beginning of the series, Go made it very clear that one of his biggest goals was to meet Mew again. Did that happen? But even sidestepping that, another one of his goals became completing the entire Pokédex and learning as much about Pokemon as he could. That was his entire reason for journeying alongside Ash and working under the professor. There's no way in hell he's gotten all of the Pokemon by now. I know he got a lot. I know he's got a ton of Pokemon in that garden, but I know he don't got over 800 in that thing. There ain't no way. Not to mention Chloe, who set out on this journey for her Eevee to find out what kind of evolution it wanted to be and what it wanted to grow into and things like that, only for that to really never happen because it wouldn't really make any sense anyway. It's obviously a Gigantamaxing Eevee, that's why it can't evolve, but she doesn't battle, so there's no way for her to know that. So what the hell? So in turn, for me, this is another situation that simply boils down to characters not getting their resolutions and not really having a concluding story for anybody other than Ash, at least with this specific saga for him, because there's no way in hell that they're gonna be able to do everything that they need to do within the last episode to feel like completed characters. And they've never done anything like some sort of time skip in the Pokemon series to possibly show something like that, and I highly doubt that they're gonna start now. Granted, this is most likely because they have some future plans, but as somebody on the outside, I can't tell that. I don't know. So I can only judge based on what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is just uncompleted storylines. So that's just one of those things where we're gonna have to play by ear. We'll have to see what happens post series, essentially. And finally, a gripe that I have talked about a multitude of times, especially in the previous video regarding this topic, is the fact that Ash, up until the end, is still a dumbass. Like I said in the prior video, I kind of fell off pretty much after that fight against Marnie because of the BS that him and Lucario pulled. Because all that showed me was that he still has crazy plot armor and he gets by solely because of that. And that's essentially what got him up to this point. Now, here's the thing. I can't knock it too much because we're at a very interesting turn point with this very final week. Before Sun and Moon, Ash had always lost. Every finale battle that he has ever participated in, he has always lost. And that kind of became the norm for Pokemon. We understood Ash would lose because if Ash became champion of any specific region, that would most likely mean the end of Ash's journey. He became the strongest trainer. Until they introduced Leon. It was actually a revelation to see Ash actually become champion of a region. However, they had that specifically planned out because they already knew about Leon at that point. And Leon, as we know now, is the strongest unbeatable champion. Now, like always, obviously Victor and Gloria are not canon in the anime because Ash still is somewhat their stand-in. And obviously, as a stand-in for the main characters of the game, that means that the only person with the potential to beat the unbeatable trainer is Ash. Now again, because of Sun and Moon, and because of where we are with this very unique version of the anime, this is the first time where we do not actually know what the outcome of this battle could be. As frustrating as it is, Ash has proven time and time again that plot armor is completely on his side. So obviously, to my understanding, based on what I've seen, they're both down to their last Pokemon, and their final bout is going crazy, but nobody actually knows what the outcome is gonna be. Here's my problem though. I'm not watching anything else besides the last episode. Don't get me wrong, I feel a little guilty. Truly, I do. However, nothing else up to this point mattered to me. Nothing. No real development in his battle style, no real character development for him personally. He just runs in and he lets instinct take over or something and just hopes that his Pokemon can do it. It's good to believe in your friends, but there's definitely better ways to have gone about this. It just feels like a waste. And I could talk about this all day, but I'm gonna move on to my final thoughts. Now, here's my thing. I do plan to watch the finale as soon as it drops that morning. However, I'm watching in high hopes that Ash beats Leon's ass. I hope he wins. Now here's the messed up part about it. I'm not supportive of Ash himself. I hope he wins so that he could really accomplish his goal. Beating Leon would accomplish his dream of literally becoming the strongest trainer of all time. Think about this with me for a second. To get to this point, to get to the point of battling Leon, Ash has had to go through the strongest trainers of all time. Sometimes a second time. And not just the strongest trainers of the region. No. The strongest trainers in the world. Ash battling Leon at this point in time means that canonically, in the anime's Pokemon universe, Ash is the second strongest Pokemon trainer of all time. There is no higher place to go than where he is right now. And so, with that, there's only two real directions this can go. Scenario 1, Ash loses. In this scenario, Ash obviously loses to Leon. He put up his best, but it just wasn't enough. They shake on it, and they go their separate ways, and we get another season with Ash. This would bug me specifically because that means that we would most definitely be continuing the anime series with Ash as the main character. This would frustrate the hell out of me because that would obviously mean that we would have to go into the next anime with Ash as the star character as a reverted version of himself yet again. Meaning that we would go into this next anime with a canon version of Ash that has championed a region and only barely lost to the strongest trainer of all time. Only for him to waltz into the Paldea region and barely win against the first trainer that decides to challenge him. Even though Pikachu is his strongest Pokemon. You see my frustration? I just don't think that my heart could be stuck in that same little loop again. I don't know if I can handle it. Especially because they've already done the whole school setting thing with Sun and Moon. They probably didn't anticipate that Paldea would be all about school stuff, and that would be kind of boring to put Ash in that exact same scenario again. Especially because, logically speaking, why would the second strongest trainer in the entire world need to go to a school to learn more about Pokemon? Pokemon of that region, he could just get the dex and just catch and learn. He doesn't need to be in a classroom. Ash does not have the patience to sit in a classroom. Why would they do that again? I can't do it. I simply cannot do it. This brings me to scenario 2. Ash wins. Ash wins and becomes the strongest trainer of all time, meaning that his initial journey comes to a close. With Ash as the technical strongest trainer in the entire world, they no longer have a need to utilize Ash for any of the further upcoming seasons. Canonically speaking, in the verse of the anime, Ash being the strongest means that he's done, and that would give them the opportunity to move on to a different trainer. A completely new character with their own set of goals. Hell, maybe they just want to become the strongest in the world. That's totally fine. Guess what? We could go full circle and eventually they'll have to fight Ash. And honestly, for the new generation of Pokemon players right now, I think that would be extremely fitting and almost poetic. Personally, I just feel like my generation of Pokemon has had Ash for way longer than we needed to have him. It's time for somebody new to take the seat and have the limelight so that they can have their time to shine. Whether they decide to utilize the game story and just take the main character from that, or create a completely original character that's anime specific, is fine by me, as long as it's something new and fresh. Because think about it for a second. There's really no justification in which each of those scenarios that I just explained have a future where Ash is in the Paldea region. That means that he either A, left his post as the strongest trainer and just decided to roam again, or he's the second strongest trainer and he's still too weak, most likely. I don't see an ending in which I'm frankly happy with either of those. At the end of the day, we're not there yet. It all boils down to the final fight here with Ash against Leon. Who's gonna win? I actually could not tell you. I'm dead serious. But I can say with 1000% certainty that we're going to get an anime based in the Paldea region. And what happens with that really depends on this fight. So, we'll see what happens. When it comes through, if you guys really want, I'll post my thoughts and reactions to the entirety of the episode. But otherwise, we got some games to focus on, boy. All in all, with this current version of the anime, it was a very fun journey. And I'm not saying that ironically or anything. The little bit of time that I did spend with it, I had a good time. It was annoying and it was very frustrating because the potential that it had was never even glimpsed at. But the little bit that we did get, it was a good time. And honestly, even though they were filler, hey, it's a good Saturday morning cartoon type beat. I enjoyed myself. I've had my frustrations, but overall, I would love to see how this thing concludes and see what the future brings for the anime. All they gotta do is hire a young plucky new trainer with a Shinx as his best friend to replace Pikachu because Pikachu has simply been the face for too long. That's all they gotta do. Just hire me, y'all. What's up? I'm here. I'm right here. What's going on? So that just about wraps it up for what could potentially be my final discussion regarding the anime for a long while, if ever. We'll see if we come back to this topic. We may talk about Pokemon the next journey, whenever that comes along, or whatever happens with the Paldea region version of the anime, but we'll have to play that one by ear. For now, we're going all in on the games because the anime is about to end this week, actually. And at the time of this recording, I have bled over into the next week, and this has to go out on Thursday, no matter what. So we've got some Pokemon news to cover, and we've got the game to cover in a couple of weeks. But until then, I'll be around playing Sonic Frontiers, but I'll be around. So anyway, I'm passing it over to y'all. What are you guys thinking about the anime? Are you looking forward to the conclusion? Are you sad to see it go? Are you excited to see it go? Are you hoping for the end of the anime to bring something new? Do you want to see Ash again? Tell me everything you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always, always, always down there with you guys, without fail. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that because I'm gonna go ahead and skedaddle on out of here. I would like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. And with that, I'm about. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.